Hey, Closeteers. How are you guys doing today? Thank you for joining. Come on in. So today we're going to interrupt the regular program of talking about, being married to or dating the next kind and how therapy is important, not only to you and the person, but if you have children, to your children as well. To talk about having conversations, right? Having necessary conversations with your parents, grandparents, aunts, uncle, whoever it is that you may have some animosity or a buildup for, and you may be blaming them for something that's not necessarily their fault. And again, remember when I talk to you, I am not a licensed professional. I talk to you based on my experience in my life. And then I also go into telling you, in my opinion, experience is the best teacher. So I'm going to talk about how unresolved issues or not having a necessary conversation can cause you to lose years of a relationship with someone. My father died in 2002. When my father passed, we were in a really good place. However, there was a lot of things, traumatic things that happened to me that he left this earth having not known, and therefore will never know. And it was because I did not have the necessary conversation with my father. I had forgiven him for the things that I blamed him for, but I had never told him exactly what the things that I blamed him for were. Now, some of the things could be laid at his feet. He became a drug addict. He was no longer able to financially, emotionally, or mentally support his children. That can be laid at his feet, even though we know now, I know, that being a drug addict is a sickness, not a choice. But when I was very young and I thought that it was a choice, so I made a lot of assumptions and I did a lot of blaming, he and my mother. My mother is still here. And that necessary conversation that I should have had with my father, I still have not had with my mother. But there's a reason why I haven't had that conversation with my mother. And it's due in part to a sister of mine. I will never say her name. I will never say the person who did it name. I'll just say certain things. I have many sisters, and the only way you'll know what I'm talking about is if you're a part of the inner family, because we know. She was molested by she was molested, raped, and continually raped year after year, to the point where he was no longer making her do it. She was a willing participant, having no knowledge that what was being done was wrong. And it was what could be called a stepfather, because he and my mother shared kids outside of, he wasn't my father, he wasn't her father. So, finally, my sister decided to have that conversation with my mother. She had the conversation with me. I don't know what it was with this particular sister, and you would think that this sister and I would be the best of besties, because everything in her life that was like large like that, I was the first person to know, and she is 6 years older than I am. So go figure why she chose me. My sister is gay. And she came out to me as gay. I was 5 or 6 years old, something like, matter of fact, I was like 7, because a lot of the trauma that I faced in my life, and we will go over it, I don't remember a lot of my childhood, like from 0 to 6. Just, it was traumatic, and so I blocked out a lot of stuff, so I don't remember a lot of stuff. So this was either I was 6 or 7, one of those, when she came out to me and she told me that she liked girls. I had no darn clue what she meant, what she was talking about, but she still felt comfortable and she told me. And at that point, I didn't know. It was many, many, many years later when I got older that I realized what she had entrusted me with. So anyway, she also entrusted me with, well, she didn't even really entrust me with it. She was kind of in a soft and broken place. And I think she wanted to tell me and she didn't know how to. So me being who I am, I don't sugarcoat. I get to the point. And so I just flat out came out and I said it to, because I had my suspicions, because he didn't do anything to me, but he tried to. So I had my suspicions. So when she was at this vulnerable point and she wanted to tell me but didn't know how to tell me, I made it easy for her and I told her. And she just confirmed, and then she was able to go into the situation and talk to me about it. And so they are both still living, my mom and this person. So I told her, well, do you want to talk to mommy about it? And she was a little apprehensive, and she was like, I told her, listen, I'm going to be there with you. I'll sit next to you. I'll hold your hand. Whatever it is you need me to do, whatever it is, however you want to do this, I'm your person. Let me know. And so it was probably a couple of months and she decided to do it. Now, she lived about an hour and 45 minutes away from my mother and I, because my mother and I lived probably 10 minutes from each other at the time. So I picked my mom up, didn't tell her what was going on. We drove out there, and my mother flat out told my sister she didn't believe her. Flat out. She didn't really take the time to listen. And I don't think it's because, I think it was more to do with her trauma, my mom's trauma, than my sister's trauma. Because my mom has a lot of trauma that she has not dealt with herself. So I think, but see, my sister is not me. She doesn't have the understanding that I have. She doesn't have the relationship with God that I have. So my understanding versus her understanding is different. So when my mother responded the way she responded, it was a big thing. It was huge, screaming, cussing. So I was like, okay, I was not ready for this. I'm your person. I'm here for you. But whoo, this went somewhere that I was not ready for. But in the midst of that, it taught me that I can't tell my mother the things that I need to tell her. I can't have the necessary conversation with my mother that I need to have because she's not ready, right? Because she hasn't dealt with her own problems. But the problem with the whole situation is, we're gonna bring it back around to me. The problem with this whole situation is, I was very angry with my parents. And I blame them for a lot of the trauma that I went through even after the traumatic event. And the problem with that is, how were they supposed to know what had happened if I never told them? So for years, I held on to this anger because I had the assumption that they should have known or that they knew. And so in essence, I was angry with them for no fault of their own on some of the matters. The traumatic things that happened to me that I never shared with them, and how I felt they should have reacted to me after those things happened. Well, hello, they had no clue. So how could they comfort me? How could they reassure me if they didn't know what was going on? And I was more angry with my mom than my dad, just because I really lived with my mom for most of the time that I was living at home, which I left home at a very young age. Like I said, I was an incorrigible runaway. I ran away all the time. But I spent more time living with my mom than my dad. And so proximity made me more angry with her. Two, my mother had a reputation of kicking butt and taking names. That was her reputation. She was a very tough black woman. So it was like, how could you not protect me from these predators, right? How? And so there was times really where I thought I hated my mother. And that made for a very unhealthy household. That's why I did a lot of running away, because I didn't want to hear anything she had to say. I didn't trust her any longer. So it was horrible. So a lot of those wounds were, in essence, self-inflicted wounds, because I was assuming that she wasn't protecting me, that she wasn't comforting me, that, and she had no clue. And at this time, my mother was a full-blown drug addict and alcoholic. So she was nowhere near in her right mind, right? But so here's what I want to tell any of you that are listening, that come across this. Have that necessary conversation. Have it for yourself. And before you go in to be somebody else's person, make sure that you're ready for it, right? Because I was not ready for that. I was not ready. I thought I was. But when it happened, oh my God, it knocked me off my rocker. And then it put me in a position, because I seen my mother's reaction to my sister's news. And as devastating as my sister's news was, mine is even more devastating. So I said I could never tell her this, because if her reaction is the same reaction, then I will never speak to my mother again, chances are, right? So have that necessary conversation. And unfortunately, even though I forgave my father, I forgave both of them, because I have a relationship with my mom now, and I had a relationship with my dad before he passed on. But there was still unresolved issues and information that he never knew and never understood. My father was more shocked at my rebellion than anyone, because he had such high hopes for me, not based on what he wanted me to be, but based on how I was, based on the student I was, based on what I said I wanted to do. He was in my corner based on those things. It was not a parent trying to live vicariously through their child. It was a parent trying to support the dreams of their child. So his actions were based on the things that I said and done. So he had high expectations of me, high. And those things, all those things that I wanted to do, came to a screeching halt when I started having these traumatic things happen to me. And my rebellion began to be not to go to school, or to barely go to school, and to not trust my parents, because I didn't trust them to protect me anymore. So I didn't trust that I could have conversations with them. And that's why, as a parent, I am so open to conversation. Now, I may fuss a lot, but I'm open to conversation, because I understood what was missing in my relationship with my parents. So I'm very open with my children with conversation when they want to have a talk, when they say they could have those talks with me that it's like, how do you tell your parents this? I'm open to that. I am the parent that's open to that. So my father left here having not known that I felt that he did not protect me. He didn't know that. He knew that we had issues, there were things between us, but he never knew exactly what they were. Even if he had his suspicions, I never confirmed to him. So I'm telling you, if you have the chance to fix that, fix that. I want to fix it with my mom, but I want my mom to get help first to deal with her unresolved trauma, so that she could even hear my trauma. I don't want it, because I think her reaction to my sister's trauma was, it was anger, and it was hurt, and it was pain, because Not only did you not protect her, you let the predator in the house, right? Over and over again for years. He had to have been raping my sister no less than 10 years of her life. No less than 10 years of her life. And he didn't come by once in a blue moon. He was there 5 out of 7 days a week. So this is very traumatic for her. And so, yeah, that was a hard thing for my mom to deal with, in my opinion. She didn't share this with me. She just in my opinion. And so even to this day, her and my sister are really like high and by. There's no real relationship there. It's just high and by, really. And no one is talking about the elephant in the room. And so just get help. Tell your truth. Don't hold people accountable for things that they have no clue about. You have to talk about it, and then based on, afterwards, then that's different. Accountability comes in then differently because now they have the information. So yeah, I definitely I advise you guys to have those necessary conversations. And I know that I need to have that same conversation with my mom, because my mom really, she is up in age, even though she don't behave like it. She is up in age, and I don't want to make the same mistake with her that I made with my father. So I know that I have to have that conversation with her. And believe me, if I'm telling you to do something, either I've done it or I darn sure plan on doing it. But more than likely, I've done it. This is one of those rare occasions where I'm telling you to do something that I have yet to do. But I did forgive them. I don't hold them accountable. I did forgive them. I just didn't get to have the conversation. So make sure to do that. If your children behave funny around somebody, pay attention to that. If their whole demeanor changes, if their behavior changes around someone, pay attention to that. Those are telltale signs. I can look back over my life and see all the signs that I gave for someone to say, hey, something's not right. What's going on here? No one did. No one did. So the trauma continued, right? No one did. And so if you feel that way, have that conversation, and please don't do the whole what happens in this family stays in this family, what happens in this house. Don't do that, because then you give that person a chance to re-offend, to do something to hurt someone else. And this person that I'm talking about with my sister ended up going to jail some probably 25 to 30 years later, after he had done what he did to my sister. And it was not the first time that he had been accused. So he's a habitual offender. And that's not good, because too, then you start to blame yourself for all the victims after you. But when you've been victimized, it's up to you. It's your story. Only when you're comfortable. Don't let anybody make you feel that you have to tell the police, you have to tell your story. And if, in fact, it's learned that this person harmed someone else after you, you cannot take on that responsibility. You cannot take on that pain. You cannot blame yourself. You can't, because more than likely there was a victim before you. So don't take that on. Don't take that on yourself. Find someone you can trust and talk to them. But protect your kids at all costs. Pay attention to your children. Pay attention to their behavior. Pay attention to what they say. Pay attention. It's vital, because a lot of trauma I faced after all those things, if the original trauma would have been treated, chances are a lot of the other things wouldn't have happened, right? So have that necessary conversation, okay? I love you guys. I thank you guys for trusting me enough to watch. Please click like, subscribe, and share Tell a friend. We never know, right? People do not always talk about this. A lot of people have no clue a lot of the things that happened to me, that traumatized me. People have no clue. And sometimes that strong exterior is covering something. Okay? Love you guys. Take care. Bye.